year times 4 equals $320,000 versus the other big ticket thing for most. The typical price of a house or condo in America is $284,000. Paying for a kid's college can be the biggest money decision we make, and it's often driven by too much emotion and not enough data. Ron Lieber immersed himself in this world. He writes the New York Times column Your Money, and his book, out today, is called The Price You Pay for College. Hey, Ron, it's been a while. How are you?
It's a thrill to be back. Thanks, David.
You try to be financially rational. You urge people to figure out how to get the best deal, but you and the college-bound kid are up against insane social pressures.
It's absolutely true. And what I was trying to do for people is to help them have the most emotionally intelligent college shopping experience they possibly could, right? Because if you get in touch with the feelings that can affect you in this particular process, things like fear and guilt and snobbery, then you'll have a better sense of the ways in which you might be fooled, tricked internally to spending more than you need to and more than you want to.
Because the rational piece of your brain that wants to say, okay, honey, everyone can't own a Ferrari, but loads of people will make you and your kid try to feel like a failure if you don't get the kid and the kid doesn't get into the Ferrari of colleges.
Well, this is the thing about that, right? Because some of this is about the gold star for parenting that you might acquire as a mom or as a dad if your kid gets into a college that is somehow impressive to other people. But what other people don't understand is whatever financial constraints you may be operating under. And also, there's all sorts of people in your community who have no idea that all sorts of pretty selective schools are bidding behind the scenes with tens of thousands of dollars off each year in this form of discounting known as merit aid that might well make it be a really good decision, even if you're turning down a school that might be more impressive to those people.
Another one of these unproductive emotions is a fear, really, that's based on something real. We all worry that we're not setting up our kids to do as well or better than we did.
Yeah, much of the decision-making here is governed by this sort of fear of falling, right? And so you don't want your kid to go tumbling down the social class ladder. And what is about to happen is that you're going to make a purchase decision involving a six-figure amount of money that will directly affect the trajectory of their lives. So you would actually be sort of nuts not to be worried, right? So I'm trying to channel that fear into something more constructive, not towards borrowing as much as possible, but to channel that fear to ask the best possible questions that will allow you to make a decision that inspires hope as opposed to being scared.
That book is called The Price You Pay for College. We also talked to Ron Lieber today about ferreting out some nifty data that many colleges stash on their website somewhere that hint at the chances that smart students might get a deal on price. Marketplace.org if you missed that on the air. Now, tomorrow it's a Maryland mother who worked full-time with her daughter to increase a shot at an all-expenses-paid 4-year trip to college. I'm David Brancaccio. This is the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
The World Affairs Council and UNF partnering to engage citizens in becoming better informed participants in the global community. January 26th, Admiral James Stavridis, 16th Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. Information, worldaffairscounciljax.org.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. Serious injury cases are complex, and civil trial attorneys present the evidence juries need to see and hear. More at waynehogan.law.
Baptist Health reminds you that emergency care cannot be delayed. Our ERs are equipped to keep patients safe through rapid screening, separate treatment areas, detailed cleaning protocols, masks, and more. More details at covid19.baptistjax.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
Who should be next in line to receive the COVID vaccine? I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, we'll speak with Duval County School Board Chair Elizabeth Anderson. She sent a letter to Governor Ron DeSantis asking for priority to be given to teachers in COVID vaccinations. That's ahead. Then later.
It is a place for remembrance, a place for remembering and mourning and recognizing the 6 million Jews who were murdered.
A special event this week in Jacksonville honoring Holocaust Remembrance Day. We'll tell you how you can take part. Plus, our ADAPT series. How will the new Biden administration affect climate policy here in Florida? That and more is just ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. The Senate is poised to confirm Secretary of State nominee Tony Blinken to the post later today. His nomination was approved by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. On Monday, the U.S. Senate confirmed Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. The stalemate over a Senate power-sharing agreement appears to be over. NPR's Giles Snyder reports on a statement that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell issued on Monday night.
Senator McConnell's statement came after two Senate Democrats, West Virginia's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, made clear their opposition to ditching the filibuster, a rule that requires 60 votes to advance major legislation. McConnell's been demanding assurances that Democrats now in control of the evenly split Senate won't take away the minority party's ability to block bills and require only a simple majority, with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking tie votes. Despite no guarantee from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, McConnell now says he looks forward to moving ahead with a power-sharing deal. It's expected to be modeled on the agreement Senate leaders struck in 2001, the last time the Senate was evenly split. That deal included the filibuster. Giles Snyder, NPR News.
All members of the U.S. Senate will be sworn in today as jurors for the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. That trial starts on February 9th. California is beginning to ease some of its pandemic lockdown measures as the number of coronavirus cases begins to slow. State health officials are moving to help counties give COVID-19 vaccines. NPR's Eric Westervelt reports California is lagging other states in its vaccination rates.
State officials here say the problem is vaccine supply, but California's rocky rollout also is due to its reliance on county health departments, and some need help to distribute a vaccine at scale.
We have 58 counties, some very big, some very small, and they do things differently.
That's Dr. Mark Galley, the state's health secretary. He tells NPR Californians will benefit from a more centralized state role.
Helping bring some consistency both to what people's expectation can be and what the vaccinators should expect in terms of accountability and measurement and data.
And in the next round of vaccinations, the state wants to shift to more of a focus on age-based priorities rather than occupations deemed higher risk. Eric Westervelt, NPR News.
At least one person has been killed in central Alabama after a tornado smashed through the city of Fultondale. That's just outside Birmingham. Several people were injured and there is substantial damage. Ray Hendricks was staying at a Fultondale hotel. He says when the wind got bad, he dove into the bathroom for safety.
A lot of chaos, happened real quick. A lot of roaring, as they say, it sounded like a train coming, but it was loud roaring. It was pretty scary.
He spoke to WBAMA TV. This is NPR News.
And the time is 4 minutes after 9. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. I'm Michelle Corum. The Jacksonville City Council will introduce a bill tonight that would give a $260,000 property tax break to a national pharmaceutical and medical device distributor. The unnamed company is looking at warehouse space in northwest Jacksonville. As the Jacksonville Daily Record's Mike Mendenhall reports, an Ohio-based company called Sarnova matches the description of the city's code name, Project Robalo.
Robalo is asking the city for up to $260,000 if it leases a newly developed warehouse as its southeastern U.S. distribution center. In return, the medical device distributor tells city officials it will invest nearly $7 million and create 25 full-time jobs over the next 3 years. The city's economic development agreement with Robalo says the 25 jobs would pay an annual average salary of over $58,000 plus benefits. One possible clue to the company's identity? Sarnova is listed as a new tenant at an industrial center called Park 295 at Interstate 95 and Duval Road. City Council President Tommy Hazouri filed the incentive legislation at the request of Mayor Lenny Curry. For WJCT News 89.9, I'm Mike Mendenhall.
And the Miami City Ballet is going to present To Miami with Love for its 2021 spring season. The outdoor pop-up shows will be site-specific, one-time-only performances at iconic locations like Wynwood Walls and other spots in the Miami Design District. You're listening to WJCT News. It's 64 degrees and partly cloudy in Jacksonville.
Support for NPR comes from Capital One, offering Capital One Shopping, a downloadable browser extension that searches various sites for shoppers. What's in your wallet? More at CapitalOneShopping.com. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation at rwjf.org.
Well, we all know Florida's seniors are first in line to be vaccinated for COVID-19, but teachers say they are endangered too. Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Just ahead, why the Duval County School Board says teachers should be given priority for COVID vaccines. What do you think? Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Then later, it's our ADAPT series, how a new administration could affect climate policy here in Florida. But first this hour, the latest numbers on the pandemic. Here's a number for you, 1,658,169. That is the total number of COVID cases in Florida now since the pandemic began. The death toll stands at 25,446. with an increase of 153 deaths from Sunday alone. Now, amidst these numbers, Florida, as we all know, is prioritizing the vaccination of people 65 and older in this pandemic, seniors. But last week, the chair of the Duval County School Board asked Governor Ron DeSantis to tweak that policy, to make teachers a priority during the next phase of coronavirus vaccine distribution. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has said that teachers and school staff shouldn't expect to go to the front of the line. He wants people 65 and older to go first. That goes against what the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has recommended. The CDC says frontline essential workers, such as firefighters, police, grocery store workers, and teachers, along with those 65 and older, should be getting the priority for vaccinations. Elizabeth Anderson chairs the Duval County School Board. She sent this letter to Ron DeSantis last week, and she's on the line right now. Ms. Anderson, good to have you back on the show.
Good morning, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
And we want your calls as we speak with Duval County School Board Chair Elizabeth Anderson. What do you think of her plea to the governor asking that teachers be given priority as vaccines are now being distributed around Florida? Call us up. It's 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaNJax. And our Facebook page is already getting your comments. Elizabeth Anderson, 2 teachers in Duval County Public Schools and 1 student, it's my understanding, have now died from COVID-19, and this lends a lot of gravity to your appeal to the governor. Tell us more about what you asked the governor to consider when it comes to the risk to teachers right now.
Sure. The reality is that our teachers are required to be in brick and mortar buildings educating our children face-to-face due to executive orders that we've received from the Department of Education. And because they're required to be there, they are essential, critical infrastructure frontline workers. I think that being committed to prioritizing our teachers, just like we would commit to prioritizing our firefighters and our police officers, is important. And it shows how much we value the educators and the role they play in our community.
Teachers have, unlike in some other parts of America, here in Florida, they have gone back into the classroom with PPE, and they are at risk, along with everybody else who's interacting with the public. What are the teachers in the Duval County School District saying to you about this whole issue and the appeal you made to Ron DeSantis?
Sure. I mean, I think the letter, in response to the letter, people are grateful. I would say that since the beginning of the school year and before, back in July, and the community knows, the teachers have been very vocal in expressing their concerns, their fears, and the real risks that they face going into the classroom. And so this is a small thing that the Duval County School Board really has the opportunity to be able to move forward with this letter and asking the governor to make this a priority.
Now, Governor DeSantis visited Jacksonville's River Garden senior home Monday to tout his efforts to get the vaccine out to seniors and every resident of the state's 4,000 long-term care facilities. He says he hopes to have that accomplished by the end of this month. What's your response to people who like the governor's policy, putting seniors and long-term care facilities first?
There's no doubt that our seniors and elderly folks are at the highest risk. And I also understand that the governor, and he's in a very challenging position, right? No one's ever done this before. We've never been faced with a vaccine rollout quite this quickly. And so I respect that he's trying to do the best that he can, given the supply and demand problem that we face. And I believe that these high-risk populations need to be prioritized. What I'm looking for, and I think what would be some peace of mind to our educators, is that there's a commitment to making our teachers and our school-related personnel sort of next in line, that we can get this in line with our White House task force and our CDC guidelines, that teachers are considered frontline workers and able to be prioritized for vaccination.
Now, in your letter, you explain that in-person education is best for students, but that it's difficult to keep everyone healthy without more aggressive vaccination. And you did point out that 2 educators have died and a student this month. Tell us more about the teachers we've lost here in Jacksonville to COVID-19.
Sure. We have one longtime educator who we lost over in the Arlington area. I know personally some friends that just loved her when she was a teacher at Love Grove Elementary, and then we lost a paraprofessional from Neptune Elementary School who served some children with special needs. These are individuals that are beloved by their communities and their school families. And just like the hundreds of thousands of other lives that have been lost around the country, we need to do a better job getting these vaccines out to the folks that are at high risk, including the individuals like teachers that are in classrooms that don't really have an option not to be there.
As you await a response from the governor, and I'm guessing you haven't heard back from him yet, what is the Duval County Public Schools doing in the meantime as we all wait on more vaccinations in the way of contact tracing, social distancing, testing, and doing everything possible to keep both students and teachers and staff safe? Can you bring us up to date on those procedures?
Sure. I'll tell you as much as I know. We know that there has been some evolution in the guidance from CDC, and so our school district and our nursing staff, those protocols have changed in line with the CDC guidelines. But we were pretty aggressive in attempting to roll out some real important mitigation strategies. We continue to do temperature monitoring. We continue to require masks. We ask for social distancing when possible, but when you're talking about thousands of children sometimes in a building, that's pretty challenging, which is why the masks are important. We continue to have desk shields up at tables and desks for student stations. And contact tracing falls to the Department of Health. Now, that has been quite the challenge, and I know that we've seen parents, teachers, community members come out and express concern about getting the information out to families and being transparent. And I think the district has done the best that they can to try to do that without stepping on the Department of Health toes, because they're really the trained public health professionals that do the contact tracing and reach out to families in their investigation.
All right. And what are your questions for Elizabeth Anderson? She's the chair of the Duval County School Board. Did you hear about the letter she sent to the governor last week asking that he change his vaccination policy and make teachers a priority in receiving the COVID-19 vaccination? What do you think? Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Michelle has been holding in San Marco. Hi, Michelle. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yesterday I heard a story about a woman who used an auto dialer app to get appointments for vaccination for her grandparents who were in their late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what, if any, principles of actual professional bioethics would advocate vaccinating someone in their late 90s over a teacher in their 40s or 50s, especially considering the far greater risk of exposure that teacher would have being out in the community. This smacks to me more of the governor caring more about Republican votes from people who are 65 and older versus teachers who tend to vote Democratic. And I want to know what I can do to let him know that we disapprove. And I'll take my answer off the air.
Michelle, thanks for the call. Elizabeth Anderson, your response to Michelle's comments there.
Sure. I mean, I think if you're looking for what you can do, Michelle, I would say reach out to the governor's office, reach out to your state leaders and even your local officials. Let them know that you feel that educators in our classrooms are a critical part of how we can keep our communities running and our children educated and supported, and they should be a priority. I would invite everyone to do that. I will also say that the superintendent and school staff worked closely with the Department of Health to be able to procure vaccinations for some educators that are 65 and older. So we have nearly 600 staff members that fall into that category. We were only able to get supply enough for between 200 and 300 staff members to be vaccinated. So we have school nurses that are trained. We are ready to roll with the vaccine through the Duval County Public School system and our nursing staff as soon as we have more available vaccine ready for us.
We did hear from the White House podium yesterday that according to Joe Biden's new press secretary, Jen Psaki, Florida has only doled out about 50% of its vaccine supply. So we will be looking into that further. But what about the other part of that caller's comment, Elizabeth Anderson? She sees the governor's prioritization of seniors as politically motivated. Do you agree with that?
I don't know what the governor's motivation is. I think he's been pretty clear in his comments during press interviews that he wants to prioritize the folks that have been identified as the most vulnerable and at risk. And it appears that that's, the way he's defining that are folks that are 65 and older and the essential healthcare workers. And that's just where we're at now. Beyond that, I couldn't speak to his motivation.
Lisa in St. Augustine. Hi, Lisa. Go ahead, Lisa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I just dropped my kids off, so I'm in the car.
Sure.
I think your guest is being very diplomatic about the priorities. The CDC clearly did not, Judge Sanctus overrode the CDC recommendations to prioritize the seniors, which is terrific. But number one, there was no distribution plan, so it's failing. And number two, we know that 1/3 of the vaccinations that were available in Florida went to medical tourism or vaccine tourists that are flying in from out of state, getting the vaccination and going back. So that does not benefit the citizens of Florida. And also that we know that teachers' unions traditionally are negated by the Republican leadership and the Republican, dominated politics. In a different way than fire and police are. Those unions tend to be in line with the Republicans, so I think there was discrimination on that part. And the last point is, I know one child that has been quarantined 3 times. I mean, it's just dysfunctional to say that the economy leans on getting the kids back in school, but then just not addressing the reality of the fact, not prioritizing the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Hey, my child has been sent home a couple of times, too, when she had the sniffles and we had to get a COVID test. And luckily it was negative, but she couldn't return, my youngest, until the negative result came back. Certainly all of us have been affected in one way or another by this. But Elizabeth Anderson, we're hearing from parents out there, one mom just dropping her children off at school. This has been incredibly challenging for everyone, but I really do want to get back to the notion of frontline workers having it the worst, and teachers are certainly part of that. We're getting a lot of feedback on social media. Here are just a few tweets. Jason writes, they're essential and frontline. Our children's education is paramount to the survival of our society. Of course, teachers should be given priority. Chris tweets, I applaud the leadership enacted by Elizabeth Anderson. We need to continuously invite politicians like Governor DeSantis to do the right thing. Josh, teachers, even though they're not working in healthcare facilities, are on the front lines. Given their exposure and how it could impact their families, it's a no-brainer to give them priority, he says. And here's a tweet from Chris, who's a teacher. He says, when her letter is ignored, what is plan B to keep people safe in our schools? Something that is not happening enough now. Okay, what about that question from a local teacher, Elizabeth Anderson? He cynically believes Governor DeSantis will blow off your letter, and he's concerned about his safety in school.
Sure. I mean, we are not the first district to send a letter or the first organization. So every education organization around the state has sent a letter to Governor DeSantis, and many school districts across the state have sent letters as well. And I think that it's just a matter of continuing to pursue everyone making sure that the governor understands the essential role that our schools, our classrooms, our educators play in our community. In the meantime, while we await vaccines, we're going to have to keep doing as we've always done. Part of that is being able to follow risk mitigation strategies and also be safe out in the community. Continue to wash your hands, continue to wear your mask. Just because some folks are getting vaccine, certainly we know that doesn't make every place safe. So I'm grateful that our mask order continued to be extended in our community. Because we continue to see rising numbers. The executive order that we just recently got from the Department of Education, Executive Order 07, is very clear, and it says that schools must remain open and available to students and to families 5 days a week in brick and mortar. So there's very little that we have the leeway to do besides maintaining these social distancing, mask wearing, hand washing, checks that we've had in place all school year. And as the community spread continues, we will continue to see the spread in our schools.
It's 549-2937. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Elizabeth Anderson, chair of the Duval County School Board. She sent a letter to Governor Ron DeSantis last week asking that he prioritize teachers in the vaccination rollout. Here's an email from a listener. This should all be based on the science. The next in line on the priority list should be people under 65 who have medical conditions that make them susceptible to COVID, such as diabetes or obesity, and so on, regardless of their occupation. Elizabeth Anderson, what about that argument? That as they make these difficult decisions about who to vaccinate next, they should turn first to people with immunocompromised conditions.
I mean, I understand the need to make sure that our highest risk populations are certainly at the top of a priority. Many teachers, many educators fall into that category as well. And so, for me, and I think for our board, some commitment from the governor prioritizing educators in really any shape. I mean, again, at this point, we haven't even been able to get our educators that are 65 years and older vaccinated. So yes, I understand that there is a priority, but we need to make sure that the teachers are at the top of the priority list in whatever high-risk category the governor decides to tackle next.
Now, in addition to your letter, other educators and the state's largest association for teachers have also joined this effort. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So the Florida Education Association, the Florida Association of District School Superintendents, the Florida School Boards Association, they've all sent letters those rolled out, I think, back in December, mid-December, reminding the governor how important our teachers are, how valuable they are, not only to our communities and the academic needs of students, but we know that they play a critical support role in addressing the social and emotional needs of children and community, as well as an economic factor in supporting parents being at work. And so I think that those are all really important arguments to make to the governor, and I applaud each of those organizations for getting on board.
Eileen in Fleming Island. Hi, Eileen. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I was wondering when grocery store workers would be in line for the vaccine. Originally, grocery store workers were considered frontline workers or essential workers. I work for Publix, and we even had to carry around a certified letter saying we were essential workers when the shutdown originally happened. So I was wondering when grocery store workers would be in line for the vaccines.
Right. Eileen, I wish I knew the answer to that, and I certainly think that you should be given priority along with healthcare workers, teachers. You are risking your life to serve the public, and these are such wrenching calls and questions that we're getting, Elizabeth, because anyone who's in regular contact with the public is at risk. Not everyone has a job where they can Zoom in remotely and talk to their coworkers.
That's right. You know, and our educators are professionals. They went to school, they have degrees. This is their career. You know, it's not as simple when some folks in the community, I think, will say, oh, well, you know, go get a different job. These are the things that these folks have trained for years. They went to school for, and they should be able to pursue this career, which is a service to our community in a safe and healthy way. And I'll just say to Eileen quickly, because I'm looking at it here, grocery stores are considered by the CDC, grocery store workers are considered frontline essential workers, along with postal service and manufacturing workers, agriculture workers, police, firefighters as well. So, I mean, I think that is quite a large group. So I understand, again, that this is very challenging and that we really just have to have the supply. And so we are waiting for that to come out.
Another tweet, there is no social distancing in schools. Students, faculty, staff are being put at risk by the governor. Why can't the school board stand up to him or make real changes? Put classes outside or in larger, well-ventilated places. Ms. Anderson.
The superintendent has been, I think, clear from day one in encouraging schools and teachers to be creative in their approach to allow for maximizing social distancing. So certainly being able to go outside is a great option when weather permits. Being able to have some flexibility in a school building is excellent when space permits or there's opportunity to do so. But understandably, these are quite challenging. Again, you have thousands of people in some schools, and 6 feet apart is just not feasible in most classrooms.
Catherine emails the show. We've heard this morning about a rise in child suicide since the pandemic. Teachers and students are a huge priority. I'm a healthy 65-year-old, and I would have given my vaccine to a teacher or student. To a kid, a year is a huge time frame in their life. I will write my elected officials, she says. Let's take one more call. It's George in St. Augustine. Hi, George. Good morning. Go ahead.
Hi. I work in St. Augustine at a frontline urgent care walk-in clinic, so have been able to meet many people sick over the last year. And an interesting thing that I've noticed recently is that vaccinated people, recently vaccinated people, elderly especially, are coming in sick and testing positive for the coronavirus. So as I've been listening to your show this morning, I appreciate the topic of who should get it first, and that's an important topic. But I have found that there seems to be a disconnect amongst people who are getting the vaccine, not understanding that it takes a long time for it to start working. So lots of vaccinated people have actually caught COVID this past month.
Well, I will look into that. Thank you for that, George. Elizabeth Anderson, before we let you go, I want to get your reaction quickly to the resignation of the director of the Duval County Public Schools Police Department. This also is part of safety issues at school. He resigned after a statewide grand jury looking at school safety singled out the Duval County School District, accusing them of underreporting crimes and gang activity on school grounds. Your reaction as chair of the school board?
Sure. Director Edwards submitted a very brief resignation. You know, I can't speculate on what his motivations were for resigning at this time, but certainly any loss to our Duval County Public Schools community quite so abruptly is unfortunate, and I feel confident that the superintendent will be going forward with a national search for a new director for our police department.
Thanks for your time. She's Elizabeth Anderson, chair of the Duval County School Board. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
And much more coming up on the show. Later, what could a new administration mean for climate policy here in Florida? That's later, but up next.
It is a place for remembrance, you know, a place for remembering and mourning and recognizing the 6 million Jews who were murdered.
Holocaust Remembrance Day is tomorrow. We'll preview a virtual event coming up in town to mark the occasion here in Jacksonville and how you can take part. That's next.
On BritBox and PBS Passport when you become a supporter of WJCT. Sign up at jaxbundle.com today.
Shoe sales are down in this pandemic because we are not going places, which, yes, bad for shoe stores, but also shoe shiners and cobblers.
Now, between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., there's nobody.
I'm Kai Rizdal, zooming in on the shoe business in one Brooklyn neighborhood. Next time on Marketplace.
Tonight at 6, here on WJCT News 89.9.
I'm Marco Werman. On the world, we get an outside perspective.
I was born in Yemen.
So many people in Sweden.
Most people in South Africa.
Because getting outside yourself can be a good thing.
Once you move to a different country, you zoom out and you're able to see where is the other person coming from.
It is the world.
Tomorrow at 3, here on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, tomorrow is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. To honor this somber occasion, remembering the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust, Jewish Family and Community Services here in Jacksonville is hosting a free live virtual tour of its Frisch Family Holocaust Memorial Gallery. CEO Colleen Rodriguez and the event curator Hope McMath join me with this preview. Colleen and Hope, it's good to have both of you on the show. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi to you both. Colleen, let's begin with you. You're hosting this free and live virtual tour of the Frisch Family Holocaust Memorial Gallery, of course, happening on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Tell us about what people will be able to experience when they take in this exhibit.
So we'll do a little bit of just a quick overview of our organization to make sure people know who we are and how we serve the community. And then I'm going to be turning it over to Hope, who's really going to take them through the gallery, and we'll be sharing the exhibit. We'll have survivors there as well, speaking and telling their stories, or second generation, coming and talking about our survivors and the stories, and making sure people are educated about the Holocaust and the fact that we still have survivors living among us.
That's right. Hope McMath, you'll lead this virtual tour. It really is important to, I think, check this out, and in particular have younger people view it, because as Colleen said, increasingly people are losing awareness of the Holocaust.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you really just hit at the heart of the purpose of the gallery. It is a place for remembrance. There is a Holocaust memorial that sort of sits at the heart of the gallery, which is a place for remembering and mourning and recognizing the 6 million Jews who were murdered during the Holocaust. But that, in combination with the gallery, really exists to create a space for learning, for people to be able to be curious about that history, and for us to make that history alive enough and relevant enough to people today, to pull from it its lessons. And before the pandemic, when we were able to be open, we were doing regular tours of the space for school children, for women's groups, for university classes. And since we've been closed, because it's an intimate space and not one that we can really make safe for people during COVID, we are now taking it virtual, because, our survivors and all of us who care about this topic really do believe that, even during this time, and maybe especially during this time, that this topic matters. And so adapting to the environment has been important.
And this exhibit in particular spotlights women that were caught up in the horrors of the Holocaust, 9 aspects of a Jewish woman's daily life during the Holocaust. This sounds fascinating, and it's something that hasn't always been highlighted, Hope.
That's right. The exhibition we put together in partnership with Yad Vashem, which is the International Holocaust Memorial Museum in Israel. And it touches on themes that I think a lot of people can relate to: motherhood, faith, caregiving, what it means specifically to be a woman, sustenance through food. We all can relate to those themes, but to specifically look at those concepts through the lenses of women during the Holocaust, there are just profound stories being told through this exhibition. And we're able to relate it then directly to the lived experiences of some folks who live right here in Northeast Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so our tour on the 27th, our 2 tours, will give a glimpse of the monument. It will give a glimpse into this exhibition that focuses on women, and it will lift up the voices of our survivors.
So important. And Colleen, International Holocaust Remembrance Day does mark the 76th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, and it honors the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and millions of other victims of the Nazi regime. And as we've been discussing, data you supplied us, there's just a lack of basic Holocaust knowledge among adults under 40. Many of them don't know much about the Holocaust. They're not necessarily taught about this in school. And so the Frisch Family Holocaust Memorial Gallery is such an important resource in Jacksonville, along with Jewish Family and Community Services. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work you're doing with Holocaust survivors right here in Florida?
It's a real privilege to work with our survivors. As they are aging, the majority of them are in their 80s. They were children during the Holocaust. And we're finding they have unique and special needs, a lot of health issues that are directly related to the fact that they did not get proper nutrition as they were growing. Interesting things around their teeth and around certain health issues. So we're here to really be an advocate for them, making sure they're getting linked with those services. We provide meals to their homes. We provide case management. Our goal, as all seniors want to age in place in their homes, we're working to help that happen. We have caregivers that actually go into their home to take care of them, and just providing any type of support that we can. Another fact that we're seeing with them is that many of them have hidden their trauma and have not expressed it. And as they get older, they find it more difficult to not talk about it or to not have the flashbacks. And so working with their family members as well as the survivors are experiencing those moments and sharing with them and making sure that we're able to support them and help process the trauma they experienced. And now their children and grandchildren are experiencing similar trauma, hearing those stories. So a lot of mental health support as well.
Now, in addition to all the work you do with Holocaust survivors, I just want to make mention of this because when you've been on the program, I always try to do this. The Jewish Family and Community Services Organization doesn't just support the Jewish community in Jacksonville. You do a lot of amazing work for lots of groups. Now, all of that said, how can people be part of this tour and take it in virtually? What's the process?
The easiest way is going to be to go to hereforjax.com. hereforjax.com. Immediately it's going to pop up where you can register to sign up to participate. We're going to be offering this program at 2 different times on the 27th at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. So we work around people's schedule, and they'll be able to see the link and sign in, and then we'll be sending them the link to click on the 27th so that they can join the program.
That's here.
Very easy.
Very cool.
Free of charge.
And it's free. Here, HERE, forjax.com. Click now and register to attend the virtual tour at the Frisch Family Holocaust Memorial Gallery on Holocaust Remembrance Day. And thank you, Colleen Rodriguez, CEO at Jewish Family and Community Services. Guest curator Hope McMath also with us. Of course, her organization is Yellow House. Hope, Colleen, very important, and I thank you both so much for sharing this with our audience.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Another event we want to share with you
The Searching for Identity Foundation is hosting its own Zoom event tomorrow evening, partnering up with the Jewish Community Alliance. This kicks off at 5:30 p.m., and the event will focus on the second generation, children of Holocaust survivors. Two of them, Naomi Chase and Louis Post, will share their parents' survival stories. This is fascinating. Make sure to join this. It's a panel discussion facilitated by our own book club leader, Stacy Goldring. She's the founder of Searching for Identity. You can RSVP through the Jewish Community Alliance website or give them a call at 448-5000, extension 1210. Presented by Searching for Identity, the Jewish Federation and Foundation of Northeast Florida, and the Jewish Community Alliance. Well, here's something fun to look forward to. The 2021 Jacksonville Film Festival is coming up February 5th through the 7th, and they've put together a slate of dozens of films from all over the world. Programming director Tim Driscoll is on the line to give us a preview. Hi, Tim.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Great to see that the film festival is going ahead, kicking off February 5th. Tell us what's on tap.
Yes, we got, well, like you said, a lot of terrific films. We have about 80 programmed, like you said, also from all over the world. Our opening night film is a film called Beast Beast, which had premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2020. And then we also have another film that I'm really excited about on Saturday night, a feature film called White Noise. It is the Atlantic, the news magazine. It is their debut feature film, and we'll actually have the director on hand to do a Q&A after the film. The film White Noise is about the rise of the alt-right and how their arguments have made its way into the mainstream. So it's a really fascinating look at that side of politics and I guess philosophy. But it's a terrific film. I think it's really insightful and really helpful for us to understand how people think and why they think the way they do.
You've also got some films with Jacksonville connections, it's my understanding, too. Let's begin with a documentary focused on the Dover Quartet. They're up for a Grammy, and one of their members has made some musical waves in Jacksonville. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, that is Milena, and that's the film is called Strings Attached, and it's from the same director. For those who are familiar with the Jacksonville Film Festival, the documentary called Chops that was in the Jacksonville Film Festival maybe 10 or so years ago. But that director's coming back with this film, Strings Attached, about the, like you said, Dover Quartet, and they'll be playing on, I believe, Sunday. I don't have everything memorized, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I know what I like. I know what's playing. What day and when, I don't
right.
always remember, but you can go to the JacksonvilleFilmFestival.com to look at the whole lineup and what time things are playing. But yes, she'll be here also, I think, to talk about the film.
Also a film about a local airman returning home and a director from Jacksonville. Tell us about that one.
Yes, so Coming Home is really, it's a deeply moving story with obviously a local filmmaker, but also just about his experience and as serving in the armed forces. So that's a really moving story. That's in our shorts block, actually. I just pulled that one up. And that one I do have. I can tell you exactly what time it is. 6:45 on Saturday, February 6th. I'll be part of a block called Leave Me Like You Found Me. So that's the film Coming Home, directed by Kevin Kimball.
Okay. So in this time of pandemic, how are you putting together the logistics of the film festival? What can people expect when they come out to see the films? How will it be COVID safe?
Yes, that's a terrific question. So on our end, we're going to do everything we can to be safe and to let you know as an audience member that we as the staff are taking care of ourselves and trying to take care of the situation or the building that we're in. So we will be at the San Marco Theater. There'll be half hours between each block of films in the theaters, and we'll be in there cleaning and spraying down everything, keeping them clean. On top of that, we're limiting our seating to about 50% capacity so we can maintain social distancing. For the staff side, all of us will be tested before the festival starts. None of us on the staff will be allowed to come to the festival if we test positive, so you can know that the people who are there will be safe. We will be wearing masks as well as face shields. We will have sanitation stations, and we'll be wiping down all high contact surfaces. So on our end, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you who come out are safe. Obviously on your end, the audience, it's mandatory that masks be worn. We will be serving beer, wine, soda, beverages, and popcorn. So the kitchen will be relatively limited. Certainly, if you're going to eat, we will allow you to remove your mask to eat or drink. But otherwise, if you're in the theater or on the premises, masks will be mandatory. Also, we won't be doing any accepting any cash, so all transactions will have to either be online or be a credit card.
You know, it's great to see you continuing with the film festival because it really has established itself over the years, celebrating independent film and also celebrating Jacksonville and its interesting history with filmmaking. Not everybody knows that we were the original film capital.
We were, yeah. I mean, that is about 100 years old now, which is it's a lovely history, and it's terrific, and that is I would say a root. But sadly, we have allowed that root to wither in a lot of ways. So I think what we're trying to do here at the Jacksonville Film Festival, as well as the Jacksonville Film Bar, which is our local meetup of local filmmakers, we want to try to revive that and bring that back. So on our end for the film festival, our goal is to bring about more cultural awareness for people, audience members, and filmmakers to see films from across the globe. I mean, we've seen the rise of international films and their successes with things like Parasite and Roma, and I think there's a lot of things we can learn both culturally and cinematically with international films. So the film festival, our primary goal is to show Jacksonvillians the stuff they wouldn't otherwise normally get to see. We have a lot of terrific festivals that are in the city that happen throughout the year, and they have a stronger focus on local things specific. For us, it's about trying to bring stuff outside of town into town. But yes, I mean, we have a long history of filmmaking. We have kind of abandoned that history, and we hope between the various film entities that are in Jacksonville to revive that. So part of that, though, is we need audiences. So I hope people are willing and going to brave it out to come and see some of these films. We certainly understand why people may not want to come, and we fully respect those who can't for various reasons, whether they are immune compromised or they're around people who are a bit older, maybe high risk. But if you're willing to come out, we're going to make it safe for you, and it's going to be a good time. It's
JacksonvilleFilmFestival.com. Check out this website and click on the 2021 button. Look through the 2021 official selection. As Tim said, there are films from across the world featured: India, the United Kingdom, Iran, Australia, Russia, France, Spain, the Netherlands, all over the world. Look through the official selection. You'll be amazed. Get your tickets for the Jacksonville Film Festival on their website, JacksonvilleFilmFestival.com. This is coming up next weekend, February 5th through the 7th at the San Marco Theater. And this looks to be an incredible cultural event. And I salute you guys, Tim, for continuing on with this. Everybody will work to be safe, but also enjoy some amazing movies. So have fun with it. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. So hopefully we'll see something out there.
Again, that website, JacksonvilleFilmFestival.com. And it's next weekend in San Marco. All right, a quick break, and in a moment, it's our Adapt series. How will climate policy work in Florida under the new Biden administration? We're going to have our own Zoom event this week, and we're going to tell you about it in just a few minutes, how you can be part of it. You're listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Long-term care facilities are being prioritized for COVID vaccines, but many of their employees are deciding not to get the shots.
Obviously, we hope that the numbers increase of staff who avail themselves of this vaccine, and my hope is this wait and see will turn into wait and do.
I'm Elsa Chang, fighting vaccine hesitancy this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Starting at 4 on WJCT News 89.9.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. During the post-war baby boom of the 1950s and 60s, millions of unmarried American mothers were pressured to give their babies up for adoption. The law kept those adoption records secret for decades, and the trauma for mother and baby persists to this day. That's next time on Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
On the next Fresh Air, an inside look at negotiations in the 1990s which held the prospect of bringing peace between Israel and the Palestinians. We'll talk with filmmaker Dror Moray about his documentary The Human Factor, based on candid interviews with American negotiators in the talks. And we'll speak with Dennis Ross, President Clinton's point man in the effort. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
Polls suggest most Americans believe immigration is a good thing for the country, but the system is broken. And as one of his first acts, President Biden put forward a bill to change that, reigniting the debate over who belongs in America. I'm Jen White. We'll look at the risks and rewards of getting a deal done next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, will a new administration change Florida's climate future? Join us for a virtual panel discussion coming up Thursday night. We'll look at what a new year, a new Congress, and a new president could mean for climate policy here in Florida and beyond. Our lead ADAPT reporter Brendan Rivers is moderating this conversation with experts who are working to slow climate change and protect people in our community most vulnerable to its impacts. Brendan Rivers, good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
You're the lead reporter at our ADAPT website, adaptflorida.org, where we focus on all of these climate change issues. This looks to be a really timely discussion Thursday night that people can join virtually. Tell us what's on the agenda and what you'll be looking at.
Yeah, well, I mean, you did a pretty good job describing what the focus will be for the conversation, but I think the real draw is going to be our fantastic panelists that we have. I'll be joined by three people. They're all locals who are kind of like experts on this subject, and people who are actually working on it. So Leanne Gustavus, she's a climate justice organizer with Florida Rising, that used to be known as New Florida Majority. So she's kind of on the activist side of thing, really pushing for climate policies specifically that'll sort of help marginalized communities, which tend to be the most impacted by the impacts of climate change. Then we'll also have Angie Nixon, which many of our listeners may be familiar with. She's been working as a community organizer for the past decade or so, and she recently won a seat in the Florida House of Representatives. So she will be going to her first legislative session in March. So we've got a policymaker on board for this panel discussion. Mm-hmm. And then we have Adam Rosenblatt. So he's a professor of biology at the University of North Florida, and he spent much of his career studying climate change, specifically its impacts on plants and animals. And he's also a co-founder of the local chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby. So he's actively speaking with business leaders and elected officials about climate policy at the local and national level. So
okay,
really knowledgeable people here.
Now, of course, new President Biden has said he will immediately move to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. That was one of the first orders he signed after being sworn in as president. That has global impact. But when we bring it down to Florida, any idea on how this new administration's new priorities will specifically affect our area and the state of Florida, and maybe how they'll interact with state leadership here? Will you be discussing that?
Yeah, so I'll try to pick these people's brains to see if they can offer any insight into that. I know Rosenblatt might be able to give us some hints because he's speaking to a lot of these local elected officials, and I'm sure Representative Nixon has been speaking with other state legislators, so we can see if they're getting any sense if that federal leadership is translating down to the state and local level. Definitely be curious to see if Rosenblatt thinks this new leadership will make it easier for business leaders and other kind of elected officials to support the kinds of things that Biden has said he will be pushing for.
And, of course, there's a lot more at our website where you're the lead reporter. It's adaptflorida.org. And here's something that feedback we're getting from listeners. I know you've seen this too, Brendan, asking us to focus less on adaptation and more on the source of the climate change issue, which is carbon emissions and the need to draw them down. How will that come up at the event?
Well, I think we will be talking about that a lot. I mean, that's kind of been a priority for Biden when he's talking about climate change, and obviously any discussion about climate change needs to include that, because that is the root cause, and if you're not addressing that, then there's almost no point in doing anything else. So I think it'll be a big focus of the conversation on Thursday, and it is something we do talk about in our stories. Some of them are more focused on that adaptation side of things. That's true, but we do recognize that emissions are the main part of this story.
Yeah, a lot more on our website, and this looks to be a really vital discussion. You know, you and I both, along with the rest of us here at WJCT, know how engaged this community is on really robustly addressing this problem. There has been movement at the local level in recent years. There is a new special committee on resiliency. We are getting an actual resiliency officer for the city of Jacksonville. So we're behind other Florida cities, but we are getting in gear, which is good news.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've only been in Jacksonville for a little over 2 years now. And in that amount of time, the momentum has just grown rapidly here. When I first got here, it felt like there wasn't much discourse in the public at large, but now there's just so much going on with it. There's the city council is talking about it a lot. As you said, we're getting a chief resiliency officer now. The resiliency committee is set to vote on a host of other recommendations next month. So there's just a lot of action within local government, and just advocacy groups have really kind of come together, and all these different people and organizations are really starting to push locally for significant action. So it's been a really interesting couple of years to focus on this topic, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more action in the next year.
And join us Thursday night. In the meantime, go to wjct.org/events and look for Adapt Florida's virtual discussion this Thursday evening. Will a new administration change Florida's climate future? Lead reporter and event moderator Brendan Rivers. You'll see his face on the Zoom along with some others. Thanks so much, Brendan.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. I'm Melissa Ross. This is First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9. We'll be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.